Your brain is performing a disappearing act on you right now, and you have no idea it's happening. While you've been sitting there listening to these words, your mind has already discarded thousands of pieces of information. The color of the shirt worn by someone you passed on the street this morning, the exact sound of your coffee maker this morning, the precise sensation of your feet touching the floor when you got out of bed. Gone. Vanished without a trace, as if they never existed at all. This isn't a malfunction. This isn't your brain failing you. This is your brain saving your life. Every single second, your neural networks are making life or death decisions about what deserves to survive in your consciousness and what must be eliminated forever. The human brain processes roughly 11 million bits of information every second, but you can only consciously handle about 40 bits. That means your brain is constantly performing the most sophisticated deletion process in the known universe, and it's doing it so seamlessly that you never even notice. But what happens to all that deleted information? Where does it go when your brain decides it's no longer worthy of your conscious attention? And more importantly, what does this mean for who you think you are? The birthday party. Mystery Sarah Mitchell thought she was losing her mind. She sat in her living room surrounded by photo albums, birthday party decorations scattered across her coffee table, frantically searching for any evidence of what she believed was one of the most important days of her life. Her daughter Emma's 5th birthday party. The party where Emma wore that beautiful pink dress with the butterfly pattern. The party where they had the chocolate cake shaped like a castle. The party where Emma's grandfather told those wonderful stories that made everyone laugh until their sides hurt. Sarah could see it all so clearly in her mind. She could practically taste the frosting, hear the laughter, feel the warmth of that perfect afternoon. But as she flipped through page after page of photographs, a cold realization began to creep over her. There were no pictures of this party. None at all. Not a single photograph, not a receipt for the castle cake, not even a guest list or invitation. Nothing. She called her sister, who had supposedly been there. Her sister didn't remember any birthday party with a castle cake. She called Emma's grandfather, who swore he'd been out of town that entire week. She even called the bakery that allegedly made the cake. They had no record of ever creating a castle-shaped cake for anyone named Mitchell. The memory that Sarah had carried with her for 3 years, the memory she had cherished and replayed countless times, the memory that felt as real as the ground beneath her feet, was apparently a complete fabrication. But here's what made Sarah's situation even more disturbing. She couldn't let go of the memory. Even with all the evidence proving it never happened, her brain insisted it was real. The emotions attached to it, the sensory details, the narrative structure of the event, everything felt absolutely authentic. Sarah's experience reveals something profound about the nature of human memory that most people never realize. Your memories aren't video recordings stored in some biological filing cabinet in your brain. They're not fixed, permanent records of past events. Instead, they're dynamic, constantly changing reconstructions that your brain rebuilds every single time you remember them. And during this rebuilding process, your brain doesn't just retrieve information, it actively edits, modifies, and sometimes completely fabricates details. This means that the memory you're having right now of what you did yesterday isn't the same memory you had yesterday of what you were doing. It's been subtly altered, updated, and modified by today's experiences, emotions, and knowledge. Your brain is essentially rewriting your past every time you remember it, and you're completely unaware that this editing process is happening. The universal experience. Sarah's story isn't unique. It's not even unusual. What she experienced is actually a fundamental feature of how human memory works. And once you start looking for it, you'll find examples everywhere. The jazz musician who can't remember writing his most famous song, even though he performs it every night. The war veteran who vividly recalls battles that military records prove never took place. The grandmother who describes in perfect detail the layout of her childhood home, complete with the squeaky third step and the rose wallpaper in the kitchen, even though that house was demolished 10 years before she was born. These aren't cases of mental illness or pathological lying. These are examples of your brain's normal, healthy operation. Your memory system is designed to be creative, adaptive and flexible rather than accurate and precise. This might seem like a terrible design flaw, but it's actually one of the most sophisticated and beneficial features of human consciousness. Consider what would happen if your brain worked like a perfect recording device. You would remember every single detail of every single experience you've ever had with complete accuracy, every boring conversation, every mundane meal, every moment of physical pain, every embarrassing interaction, every disappointment, every trauma. You would be drowning in an ocean of irrelevant information, unable to focus on what's important because your consciousness would be cluttered with perfect records of every trivial moment you've ever experienced. Instead, your brain has evolved an elegant solution. It remembers the meaning of experiences rather than their exact details. It preserves the emotional significance of events while allowing the specific sensory information to fade away. It maintains the lessons learned while discarding the irrelevant context. This process of selective forgetting isn't a bug in the system, it's the feature that makes human intelligence possible. But this revelation leads to an even more unsettling question. If your memories are constantly being edited and rewritten, if details are being forgotten and fabricated without your awareness, then who are you really? Your sense of personal identity is built on your memories of past experiences, your beliefs about yourself, your understanding of your relationships, your knowledge of your own preferences and capabilities. All of this is based on memories that you now understand are neither accurate nor permanent. The woman who thinks she's brave because she remembers standing up to a bully in third grade might discover that this formative memory is completely false. The man who avoids dogs because he remembers being bitten as a child might find that this bite never actually happened. The couple who fell in love over a shared moment that they both remember differently might realize that neither of their versions of the story is true. This isn't just an abstract philosophical problem. This has real practical implications for how you live your life, how you make decisions, and how you understand yourself and others. Every choice you make is influenced by memories that might be partially or completely fabricated. Every relationship you have is built on shared memories that might be more fiction than fact. Every belief you hold about yourself is based on a past that your brain has been constantly editing and revising without your permission. The fundamental question, Dr. Elizabeth Loftus has spent her entire career studying this phenomenon, and her research has revolutionized our understanding of human memory. She's demonstrated that false memories can be implanted in people's minds with startling ease. She's shown that eyewitness testimony, which forms the foundation of our legal system, is often completely unreliable. She's proven that childhood memories, which we typically think of as the most formative and authentic experiences of our lives, are often elaborate fabrications created by our adult minds. But Dr. Loftus's work raises a question that goes to the very heart of human existence. If memories can disappear without a trace, if they can be altered beyond recognition, if they can be completely fabricated by our own minds, then were they ever really there in the first place? And if they were there, if they did exist at some point in some form, then where exactly do they go when they're forgotten? This isn't just a question for neuroscientists and psychologists. This is a question that affects every human being who has ever wondered about the nature of their own consciousness. When you try to remember something and can't quite grasp it, when you have that tip-of-the-tongue sensation where you know that you know something but can't access it, when you suddenly remember something you haven't thought about for years after encountering a particular smell or sound, you're experiencing the mysterious process of memory formation, storage, retrieval, and forgetting that scientists are only just beginning to understand. The implications of this research extend far beyond academic curiosity. If we can understand how memories are forgotten, we might be able to help people who are trapped by traumatic memories that won't fade. If we can map the process by which memories disappear, we might be able to slow or prevent the memory loss that comes with aging and disease. If we can identify where forgotten memories go, we might be able to retrieve them when they're needed. But perhaps most importantly, understanding the nature of forgetting might help us understand the nature of being human. Your ability to forget might be the most important cognitive skill you possess. It might be the foundation of your capacity for forgiveness, growth, creativity, and change. It might be what allows you to learn from the past without being imprisoned by it, to form new relationships without being haunted by old ones, to face each day with hope instead of being overwhelmed by the accumulated weight of every disappointment you've ever experienced. The question of where memories go when they're forgotten isn't just about neuroscience. It's about who you are, who you were, and who you might become. It's about the relationship between your past and your future, between your experiences and your identity, between the person you remember being and the person you actually are. As we begin this journey into the mystery of forgotten memories, prepare to have your understanding of your own mind fundamentally challenged. You're about to discover that forgetting isn't the opposite of remembering, it's an integral part of it. You're going to learn that your brain isn't trying to preserve your past, it's trying to create your future, and you're going to find out that the memories you can't remember might be more important than the ones you can. The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others through an intricate network of synapses. The total number of possible connections in your brain exceeds the number of stars in the observable universe. Within this vast neural cosmos, memories are born, live, change and die in ways that we're only beginning to comprehend. But what we do know is this: forgetting isn't a flaw in this system, it's the feature that makes the whole thing work. So the next time you can't remember where you put your keys, the next time you forget someone's name moments after being introduced, the next time you struggle to recall the details of an important conversation, don't think of it as your brain failing you. Think of it as your brain performing one of the most sophisticated and essential operations in the universe. Think of it as your mind making room for what's coming next, clearing space for new experiences, new relationships, new possibilities. Your brain is constantly choosing what version of you gets to continue existing, and it's making these choices by deciding what you remember and what you forget. The question isn't whether forgetting is happening, because it's happening to you right now in this very moment as you listen to these words. The question is whether you want to understand this process or remain unaware of it. The question is whether you're ready to discover where your memories go when they disappear and what that means for who you really are. Chapter 1. The architecture of forgetting your brain is lying to you right now. Every memory you think you have stored safely in your mind is actually being rewritten, edited, and potentially deleted at this very moment. What I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you understand your own thoughts, your past, and even who you think you are. You see, your brain isn't the reliable recording device you've been told it is. It's not a computer hard drive storing perfect copies of your experiences. It's something far more fascinating and terrifying. It's a living, breathing editor that's constantly deciding which version of your life story deserves to survive. Inside the memory palace, let me take you inside your brain to witness something extraordinary happening right now as you listen to these words. Deep within your neural tissue, microscopic conversations are taking place between billions of brain cells. These aren't just random electrical sparks, they're your memories being born, living, and potentially dying. When you form a memory, your neurons don't simply file it away like a librarian organizing books. Instead, they create an intricate web of connections, like a vast city, where every street represents a different aspect of your experience. The smell of your morning coffee connects to the sound of rain outside, which links to the feeling of your favorite sweater, which bridges to the emotion you felt reading a text message. But here's where it gets mind-bending. Every single time you remember something, your brain doesn't just retrieve that memory, it completely rebuilds it from scratch. Imagine if every time you wanted to read a book, you had to rewrite it entirely, word by word, based on fragments and impressions. That's exactly what your brain does with every memory, every single time. Dr. Karim Nader's groundbreaking research revealed this shocking truth through experiments that seemed impossible. He could take a rat that was terrified of a specific sound, make it remember that fear, and then, while the memory was being rebuilt, inject chemicals that would completely erase that fear forever. The memory wasn't just being accessed, it was being reconstructed, making it vulnerable to change or complete deletion. This means that your most cherished childhood memory, the one you've told countless times, has literally been rewritten every time you've recalled it. You're not remembering the original experience, you're remembering the last time you remembered it, which was a reconstruction of the time before that, and so on. Your memories are like photocopies of photocopies, each generation a little different from the last. The Great Deletion. Now I want you to meet Marcus, a man whose brain forgot how to forget. Marcus has a condition called hyperthymesia, which means he remembers virtually every day of his life since he was 11 years old. At first, this might sound like the ultimate superpower. Perfect memory, isn't that what we all want? Marcus can tell you what he ate for lunch on March 15th, 2003. He remembers every conversation, every embarrassing moment, every physical pain, every cruel word ever spoken to him. He remembers the exact feeling of every stubbed toe, every awkward silence, every moment of social rejection. His brain cannot distinguish between what matters and what doesn't, so it keeps everything. But Marcus describes his perfect memory as a curse that has nearly destroyed his life. He cannot move past arguments because he remembers every hurtful detail with perfect clarity. He cannot enjoy simple pleasures because he's simultaneously reliving every time those pleasures disappointed him. He cannot form new relationships because he's trapped in the perfect recollection of how previous relationships ended. Marcus taught us something profound about human psychology. Forgetting isn't a flaw in the system, it's the most sophisticated feature your brain possesses. When you forget the exact details of every minor slight, every small disappointment, every moment of physical discomfort, you're not losing important information. You're gaining the ability to be happy. Your brain is constantly performing what neuroscientists call adaptive forgetting. It's not randomly deleting memories, It's making intelligent decisions about what deserves to take up precious mental real estate and what should be cleared away to make room for new experiences. Every time you sleep, your brain is essentially running a cleaning program, deciding which neural pathways to strengthen and which to let fade away. The memory wars. While you sleep tonight, a battle will rage inside your skull. This isn't a metaphor, it's a literal competition between remembering and forgetting, and the outcome will determine who you are when you wake up tomorrow morning. During sleep, your brain doesn't just rest, it actively reorganizes itself. The hippocampus, your brain's memory formation center, begins replaying the day's experiences at lightning speed, but it's not replaying everything equally. Some memories get reinforced, their neural pathways strengthened, like highways being expanded. Others get no reinforcement at all, their connections weakening like abandoned roads slowly being reclaimed by nature. Dr. Lynn Nadel's research revealed that this process isn't random, it's strategic. Your brain is making sophisticated judgments about which memories deserve to survive based on their emotional significance, their relevance to your goals, and their potential usefulness in the future. The argument you had with your spouse gets preserved because it contains important information about your relationship. The specific color of the car you passed on the street gets deleted because it serves no purpose in your life's narrative. But here's what makes this process truly remarkable. Your brain is also editing your memories to make them more useful. Traumatic experiences get their emotional sting reduced over time, while positive memories get enhanced and embellished. Your brain isn't just deciding what to remember, it's improving your memories to serve your psychological well-being. This editing process explains why your childhood summers always seem perfect in memory, even though you probably experienced plenty of boredom and disappointment at the time. Your brain has gradually filtered out the negative aspects while preserving and enhancing the positive ones, creating memories that are technically false but psychologically beneficial. The forgetting genes. Evolution has spent millions of years perfecting the art of forgetting, and the proof lies written in your DNA. Scientists have discovered that forgetting is so crucial to survival that nature gave us specific genes whose only job is to make us forget. These forgetting genes produce proteins that actively weaken neural connections, ensuring that irrelevant memories fade away. When researchers disabled these genes in laboratory mice, something fascinating and disturbing happened. The mice could no longer learn new tasks effectively because their brains were cluttered with every trivial detail from their past experiences. Imagine trying to navigate your house if you remembered not just where the furniture is now, but every position it's ever been in. Imagine trying to recognize your friend's face if you couldn't forget how they looked when they were sick, tired, or caught in bad lighting. The mice without forgetting genes were essentially trapped in a mental prison of irrelevant information. This research revealed that forgetting isn't just helpful, it's absolutely essential for learning, creativity, and psychological flexibility. When your brain forgets the specific details of past experiences, it can extract general patterns and principles that are far more useful than specific facts. You forget the exact words of every conversation you've had with your mother, but you remember the general pattern of how she communicates, which helps you understand her better than any specific dialogue could. Your forgetting genes are also crucial for emotional regulation. They help you recover from traumatic experiences by gradually weakening the neural pathways associated with painful memories. This doesn't mean the memories disappear entirely. The general lessons and protective instincts remain, but the raw emotional intensity fades, allowing you to function and find happiness again. The existence of forgetting genes reveals something profound about human nature. We didn't evolve to be perfect recording devices. We evolved to be adaptive learning machines, constantly updating our understanding of the world based on new experiences while letting go of information that no longer serves us. Your brain's ability to forget is not a bug. It's the most sophisticated feature you possess. It's what allows you to forgive, to heal, to grow, and to find meaning in the endless stream of experiences that make up your life. Without forgetting, you wouldn't be human. You'd be a biological computer, perfect in memory but incapable of wisdom. The question isn't why we forget, it's why we ever thought perfect memory would be a blessing. Your brain knows better. It's been perfecting the art of forgetting for millions of years, and it's made you exactly who you're supposed to be, a creature capable of learning from the past without being imprisoned by it. But if forgetting is so natural and necessary, why does it sometimes feel like death? And what happens to the version of yourself that those forgotten memories created? That's a mystery that goes even deeper than the biology of memory. It touches the very core of what makes you human. Chapter 2, The Ghost in the Machine. Your brain is lying to you right now. Every single decision you make, every preference you have, every inexplicable feeling that washes over you, they're all being controlled by memories you swear you don't have. Memories that have supposedly vanished from your mind are actually pulling the strings of your life like invisible puppet masters. The most terrifying part? You have no idea it's happening. Scientists have discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about forgetting. When memories disappear from your conscious mind, they don't just fade away into nothingness. They transform into something far more powerful and far more dangerous. They become the invisible architects of who you are. This is the story of how your forgotten memories are secretly controlling your life, and why understanding this could be the key to understanding yourself. The emotional archaeology. Deep in the laboratories of the University of Southern California, neuroscientist Antonio Damasio has been uncovering one of the most profound mysteries of the human mind. He's discovered that your forgotten memories don't simply disappear. They fossilize into pure emotion, becoming archaeological layers of feeling that shape every moment of your existence. Think about this for a moment. You walk into a room and suddenly feel inexplicably sad, but you have no memory of why. You meet someone new and instantly feel comfortable with them, though you can't explain the connection. You avoid certain foods, certain places, certain types of people, and when asked why, you simply say, "I don't know, I just don't like them." Damasio's research reveals the startling truth behind these mysterious feelings. Your brain has taken specific memories, often traumatic or emotionally intense ones, and stripped away all the details, all the context, all the story. What remains is pure emotional residue, a feeling without a memory, an instinct without an explanation. Consider the case of Jennifer, a 34-year-old teacher who developed an inexplicable terror of yellow flowers. Not all flowers, mind you, just yellow ones. She would break into a cold sweat at the sight of daffodils, feel nauseated around sunflowers, and couldn't even look at pictures of yellow roses without experiencing panic attacks. For years, Jennifer believed she was simply irrational. She tried exposure therapy, meditation, even hypnosis, but nothing worked. The fear seemed to have no origin, no logical explanation. It was as if her mind had decided to be afraid of yellow flowers for absolutely no reason. But Damasio's team discovered something remarkable when they began using advanced brain imaging technology to map Jennifer's emotional responses. Every time she encountered yellow flowers, her amygdala, the brain's fear center, lit up like a Christmas tree. But more importantly, the pattern of activation was identical to the pattern associated with childhood trauma. Through careful therapeutic work, they eventually uncovered the buried memory. When Jennifer was 4 years old, she had been severely scolded by her grandmother while standing in a garden full of yellow marigolds. The memory of the scolding had been completely forgotten. Her conscious mind had no recollection of the event whatsoever. But her emotional brain had preserved the fear, attaching it to the most distinctive sensory element of that moment, the yellow flowers. The forgotten memory had transformed into a seemingly irrational phobia, controlling Jennifer's behavior for 30 years without her having any idea why. This isn't just one isolated case. Damasio's research team has documented hundreds of similar instances where forgotten memories have fossilized into unexplained emotions, preferences, and aversions. Your forgotten memories are constantly working beneath the surface of your consciousness, creating the emotional landscape of your daily life. But here's where it gets even more fascinating and more unsettling. These emotional fossils aren't just random artifacts of your past. They're actively shaping your present in ways that are both subtle and profound. The invisible influence at Harvard University, psychologist Daniel Schachter, has been conducting experiments that reveal just how powerfully our forgotten memories continue to influence our behavior. His findings are so startling that they force us to question whether we are truly in control of our own choices. Schachter's team designed a series of hidden camera experiments to test whether people could be influenced by memories they claimed not to have. The results were absolutely shocking. In one experiment, participants were asked to wait in a reception area before taking part in what they believed was a study about problem solving. Unknown to them, the real experiment had already begun. The waiting room contained several chairs arranged in different configurations, and researchers carefully tracked which seats people chose. What the participants didn't know was that 6 months earlier they had all taken part in a completely different study in the same building. During that earlier visit, they had been led to a similar waiting room where they had positive experiences. They received good news, won a small prize, or had pleasant conversations with friendly researchers. The catch? None of the participants remembered this earlier visit when asked about it directly, but their behavior told a different story. An astounding 83% of participants chose to sit in the exact same location where they had previously had positive experiences, even though they had no conscious memory of ever being in that room before. The forgotten memory was invisibly guiding their choices, creating a subconscious preference for a location that their conscious mind insisted was completely unfamiliar. But Schachter's experiments revealed something even more remarkable. The influence of forgotten memories wasn't limited to simple preferences. It extended to complex decision-making and even moral judgments. In another study, participants were shown photographs of faces and asked to rate how trustworthy each person appeared. Embedded among the new faces were photographs of people they had briefly encountered months earlier in various contexts, some positive, some negative, some neutral. Once again, the participants claimed no memory of having seen any of these faces before. Yet their trustworthiness ratings were dramatically influenced by these forgotten encounters. People who had been briefly encountered in positive contexts were rated as significantly more trustworthy, while those associated with negative experiences were rated as less trustworthy. The participants were making moral judgments about strangers based on memories they insisted they didn't have. Perhaps most unsettling of all, Schachter discovered that these forgotten memories could influence people's behavior toward others in ways that seemed to reflect their deepest values and preferences. Participants consistently chose to work with partners who resembled people from their forgotten positive experiences, avoided collaborating with those who resembled people from forgotten negative experiences, and even showed measurable changes in their empathy levels depending on these unconscious associations. The implications are staggering. How many of your daily choices, who you trust, who you avoid, what you buy, where you go, are actually being made by memories you can't access? How much of what you think is your personality is actually just the accumulated influence of experiences you've completely forgotten? But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. Researchers have discovered that forgotten memories don't just influence your behavior, they literally reshape your body at the cellular level. The body remembers. At the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, researcher Rachel Yehuda has made a discovery that fundamentally changes our understanding of memory, trauma, and human identity. She's found that forgotten memories don't just live in your brain, they're written into your very DNA, creating a biological legacy that can be passed down through generations. Yehuda's groundbreaking research began with Holocaust survivors and their children. She noticed that many children of Holocaust survivors exhibited symptoms of trauma despite never having experienced the Holocaust themselves. They suffered from anxiety, depression, and stress responses that seemed to mirror their parents' experiences, even when their parents had never spoken about what they endured. Initially, psychologists assumed this was simply the result of growing up in households affected by trauma. But Yehuda's genetic analysis revealed something far more extraordinary and disturbing. The trauma experienced by Holocaust survivors had literally changed their DNA. Specifically, it had altered the expression of genes related to stress response and emotional regulation. But here's the truly remarkable part. These genetic changes were being passed down to their children and even their grandchildren. The descendants of Holocaust survivors were carrying the biological memories of traumas they had never experienced embedded in their genetic code, like a molecular inheritance of forgotten pain. This phenomenon, called epigenetic inheritance, means that your body is carrying the cellular memories of experiences that happened to your ancestors. Experiences that may have been completely forgotten by your family's conscious memory, but are still living on in your biology. Yehuda's research team has identified specific genetic markers that can predict whether someone's grandparents experienced severe trauma, even if that person knows nothing about their family's history. The forgotten memories of previous generations are quite literally written into their bodies. But this biological memory system extends far beyond inherited trauma. Researchers have discovered that your own forgotten experiences continue to influence your physical health in ways that seem almost supernatural. Studies have shown that people who experience certain illnesses as children, illnesses they've completely forgotten, continue to show immune system responses specific to those diseases decades later. Their bodies remember infections that their minds have entirely erased. Even more remarkably, research has revealed that forgotten emotional experiences can alter gene expression in ways that affect everything from your metabolism to your susceptibility to certain diseases. A forgotten period of chronic stress in childhood can literally reprogram your genes to respond differently to stress for the rest of your life, even if you have no memory of what caused that original stress. Your body has become a living library of forgotten experiences, with each cell carrying molecular memories that your conscious mind cannot access. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every immune response is being influenced by a biological memory system that operates completely outside your awareness. This means that the phrase, "the body remembers," isn't just a metaphor, it's a literal biological reality. Your forgotten memories are living on in your cells, your genes, your very molecular structure, continuing to influence your health, your behavior, and your identity in ways that science is only beginning to understand. But perhaps the most fascinating discovery of all is that these supposedly forgotten memories aren't actually gone. They're just temporarily inaccessible, waiting for the right key to unlock them. The priming effect. At the University of California, Irvine, neuroscientist James McGaw has discovered something that sounds like science fiction, but is absolutely real. Forgotten memories aren't truly deleted from your brain. They're simply filed away in a vast neural archive, and under the right conditions, they can be retrieved with startling clarity. McGaw's research has revealed that your brain contains what he calls dormant memory traces, complete detailed records of experiences that you believe you've forgotten forever. These memories are still there, still intact, but they've been made inaccessible by the normal processes of forgetting. The key to understanding this lies in something called the priming effect. Just as a water pump needs to be primed before it can draw water from a well, your memory system can be primed to access forgotten experiences through specific triggers. McGaw's team has demonstrated this phenomenon in experiments that seem almost magical. Participants are exposed to subtle sensory cues, a particular scent, a specific piece of music, a certain type of lighting, that were present during experiences they claim to have forgotten completely. The results are extraordinary. Suddenly people begin to remember events in vivid detail, events they would have sworn under oath they had never experienced. The forgotten memories come flooding back with such clarity and emotional intensity that participants often become overwhelmed by the experience. In one particularly striking experiment, researchers used the scent of crayons to prime childhood memories in adult participants. The participants were initially unable to recall any specific memories from their early elementary school years, but when exposed to the distinctive smell of crayons, they suddenly began remembering incredibly detailed scenes from their childhood classrooms, the names of classmates they hadn't thought about in decades, the exact layout of their desks, specific conversations with teachers, even the particular way sunlight fell through the windows on certain days. The memories weren't just returning, they were returning with all their original emotional intensity. Participants reported feeling transported back in time, experiencing the same feelings of excitement, boredom, anxiety or joy they had felt as children. But McGaw's research has revealed something even more remarkable about these dormant memories. They're not just passively waiting to be retrieved, they're actively influencing your behavior even when you can't access them consciously. His team has discovered that people can be primed with forgotten memories in ways that dramatically alter their subsequent behavior, even when they remain completely unaware that the memories have been activated. In one experiment, participants were subliminally exposed to images from their forgotten past, photographs taken during a previous laboratory visit that they claimed not to remember. Even though the images were flashed too quickly for conscious recognition, they triggered the dormant memories and dramatically changed how the participants performed on seemingly unrelated tasks. People who were primed with forgotten positive experiences showed increased creativity, improved problem-solving abilities, and enhanced mood. Those primed with forgotten negative experiences showed the opposite effects. decreased performance, increased anxiety, and impaired decision-making. The forgotten memories were being activated below the threshold of consciousness, influencing behavior without the person having any awareness that memories were involved at all. This research suggests that the vast majority of your mental life is being influenced by memories you can't consciously access. Your brain contains an enormous archive of forgotten experiences that continue to shape your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors through subtle priming effects that occur constantly throughout your daily life. Every smell you encounter, every song you hear, every face you see has the potential to activate dormant memories that will influence your subsequent behavior in ways you'll never realize. Your forgotten past is constantly reaching forward to shape your present, creating a hidden continuity between who you were and who you are becoming. The implications are profound and somewhat unsettling. If your behavior is constantly being influenced by memories you can't access, how much of your identity is truly under your conscious control? How many of your choices are actually your own? And how many are the result of forgotten experiences pulling the strings from the shadows of your mind? But perhaps the most important question is this. If forgotten memories continue to influence us so powerfully, what does this mean for our understanding of human nature itself? As we reach the end of this exploration into the hidden life of forgotten memories, we're left with a profound realization that challenges everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Your forgotten memories haven't disappeared. They've transformed into something far more powerful and pervasive than conscious recollection. They've become the invisible foundation of your personality, the secret authors of your preferences, the hidden architects of your emotions, and the biological inheritance that connects you to generations of ancestors you've never met. They're the puppet masters of your daily choices, the underground rivers that feed the landscape of your consciousness, and the dormant seeds that can bloom into vivid recollection when touched by the right trigger. This understanding forces us to confront a fundamental question about human identity. If so much of who we are is determined by memories we can't access, experiences we can't recall, and influences we can't recognize, then what does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be in control of our own lives? The answer, perhaps, is both humbling and liberating. We are not the sole authors of our own stories. We are the culmination of countless forgotten experiences, the living expression of memories that have transformed into wisdom, emotion, and instinct. We are walking libraries of forgotten experiences, each carrying the invisible legacy of everything that has ever happened to us and to those who came before us. But recognizing this doesn't diminish our agency. It expands our understanding of what it means to be human. We are not simple, rational decision-makers operating from a clean slate of consciousness. We are complex, multi-layered beings whose every thought and action emerges from the rich, hidden substrate of forgotten experience. The ghosts in the machine of your mind aren't haunting you. They're creating you moment by moment, choice by choice, memory by forgotten memory. And in understanding this, we begin to glimpse the profound mystery of consciousness itself, where the boundary between remembering and forgetting, between past and present, between self and other, becomes beautifully, mysteriously blurred. Your forgotten memories are not gone. They are not lost. They have simply transformed into something even more essential. They have become you. Chapter 3. The Memory Hunters. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections with other neurons. Every memory you've ever formed exists somewhere in this vast network. But here's what will fundamentally change how you think about your own mind. Scientists have discovered that forgotten memories aren't actually gone. They're just sleeping, waiting to be awakened. And in laboratories around the world, researchers are learning to wake them up using tools that sound like pure science fiction. What you're about to discover challenges everything you thought you knew about the permanence of forgetting. These aren't theoretical possibilities or distant future technologies. These are breakthrough discoveries happening right now in real laboratories, with real implications for every single memory you've ever lost. The revolutionary discovery. Deep in the basement laboratories of the world's most prestigious universities, a quiet revolution is taking place. Neuroscientists have made a discovery so profound that it's rewriting the fundamental rules of human memory. For over a century, we believed that when memories fade, they're gone forever, dissolved back into the biological soup of our brains. We were wrong. The truth is far more extraordinary. Every memory you've ever formed leaves behind what scientists call an engram, a physical trace etched into your neural circuitry. When you forget something, that engram doesn't disappear. Instead, it becomes dormant, like a sleeping giant waiting for the right signal to wake up. This means that inside your head right now you possess memories of your second birthday, your first day of school, conversations you had decades ago, and countless moments you're absolutely certain you've forgotten forever. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. Researchers have developed techniques to reactivate these dormant memories. They can literally bring the dead back to life, neurologically speaking. The implications are staggering, and they're about to change everything we understand about human consciousness, identity, and the very nature of forgetting itself. Optogenetics, the light switch of memory. Let me introduce you to one of the most revolutionary techniques in modern neuroscience, optogenetics. This technology allows scientists to control specific brain cells using nothing more than beams of light. It sounds like something from a superhero movie, but it's real. It's happening now, and it's unlocking secrets about memory that were impossible to access just a decade ago. Here's how it works, and prepare to have your mind blown. Scientists genetically modify brain cells to become sensitive to light, similar to how our eyes detect photons. Then, using fiber optic cables thinner than human hair, they can deliver precise pulses of light directly to specific neurons in a living brain. When those neurons receive the light signal, they fire exactly as if they were receiving natural brain signals. This gives researchers unprecedented control over memory formation and recall. Dr. Susumu Tonegawa and his team at MIT have used this technique to achieve something that challenges our most basic assumptions about memory and forgetting. They trained mice to fear a particular room by giving them mild electric shocks while they were inside. The mice quickly learned to avoid that room, showing clear signs of fear whenever they were placed near it. Then, the researchers moved the mice to a completely different, neutral room and used optogenetics to artificially activate the fear memory they had formed in the first room. The results were extraordinary. The mice became terrified of the neutral room, even though nothing bad had ever happened to them there. The scientists had successfully transferred a fear memory from one location to another using nothing but light. But the story gets even more incredible. After several weeks, the mice appeared to have forgotten their fear of the original room. When placed back inside, they showed no signs of anxiety or avoidance. By all observable measures, the memory had been forgotten. However, when the researchers used optogenetics to reactivate the dormant memory circuits, the fear came flooding back instantly. The memory hadn't been erased at all. It had simply become inaccessible through normal recall mechanisms. The optogenetic stimulation acted like a neurological key, unlocking a door to memories that seemed permanently closed. This discovery fundamentally changes our understanding of forgetting. It suggests that your brain isn't actually losing memories when you forget them. Instead, it's making them temporarily inaccessible, perhaps as a protective mechanism or simply due to the natural weakening of neural pathways over time. The memory remains intact, waiting for the right combination of signals to bring it back to consciousness. The chemical resurrection of memory. While optogenetics uses light to control memories, another group of researchers has discovered that memories can be chemically resurrected using the very molecules that store life's genetic information. Dr. David Glanzman's work at UCLA has revealed that memories aren't just electrical patterns in the brain. They're also written in the language of RNA, the molecular messenger that carries genetic instructions throughout our cells. Glanzman's experiments with a simple sea creature called Aplysia have produced results that seem to defy everything we thought we knew about memory storage. These sea snails can be trained to exhibit a protective reflex when touched, withdrawing their gills in response to potential danger. The learning process involves repeated training sessions, and once established, the memory allows the snails to respond more quickly to threats. In his groundbreaking experiments, Glanzman trained groups of snails to perform this protective behavior, then waited for them to forget the training. Over time, the snails' responses became weaker and eventually disappeared entirely. By all measures, they had completely forgotten what they had learned. This is where conventional neuroscience would have concluded that the memory was permanently lost. But Glanzman tried something unprecedented. He extracted RNA from the trained snails and injected it into untrained snails that had never experienced the learning protocol. The results were absolutely stunning. The untrained snails immediately exhibited the protective behavior as if they had inherited the memories of their trained counterparts. The RNA had somehow carried the memory information from one animal to another. Even more remarkably, when Glanzman injected the RNA back into the original snails that had forgotten their training, their memories returned instantly. The chemical injection acted like a molecular time machine, restoring neural patterns that had been dormant for weeks. This suggests that memories might be stored in multiple formats simultaneously, not just as electrical connections between neurons, but also as chemical information encoded in RNA molecules. The implications of this discovery extend far beyond sea snails. If memories can be transferred and restored using RNA, it opens up possibilities that were previously confined to science fiction. Could we eventually extract and preserve human memories chemically? Could we transfer knowledge and experiences from one person to another? Could we develop treatments for memory loss that work by reintroducing forgotten memories through molecular intervention? These questions are no longer purely theoretical. Glanzman's work has inspired researchers around the world to investigate whether similar mechanisms operate in mammalian brains, including humans. Early results suggest that RNA-based memory storage is a fundamental feature of nervous systems across species, from the simplest invertebrates to the most complex vertebrates. Digital memories, the artificial brain. While some scientists are learning to manipulate natural memory systems, others are building artificial ones. Dr. Theodore Berger and his team at the University of Southern California have achieved something that was considered impossible just a few years ago. They've created a computer chip that can record memories and play them back into living brains. Their memory prosthesis represents one of the most ambitious attempts to understand and replicate the brain's storage mechanisms. The device works by recording the electrical patterns that occur when animals form new memories, then playing back those same patterns to restore memory function in brains that have been damaged. The technology builds on decades of research into how the hippocampus, the brain's primary memory center, encodes and retrieves information. Berger's team discovered that memories are stored as specific patterns of electrical activity that flow between different regions of the hippocampus. By recording these patterns during learning, they could create a digital template of how particular memories are encoded. The real breakthrough came when they tested whether these recorded patterns could substitute for damaged natural memory circuits. Working with rats that had been trained to perform complex tasks, the researchers chemically blocked the animals' natural memory formation, causing them to forget everything they had learned. The rats were unable to remember how to navigate mazes or perform behaviors they had previously mastered. Then came the moment that will be remembered as a turning point in neuroscience history. The researchers activated their memory prosthesis, playing back the recorded electrical patterns into the rats' brains. Instantly, the animals recovered their lost abilities. They could navigate the mazes perfectly, perform complex sequences of behaviors, and demonstrate learning that their damaged brains should have been incapable of supporting. The memory chip had successfully substituted for the rat's natural memory systems, providing artificial recall of genuinely learned experiences. This wasn't just electrical stimulation causing random behaviors, it was the precise restoration of specific memories that had been digitally recorded and artificially replayed. Berger's work has profound implications for treating human memory disorders. Alzheimer's disease, traumatic brain injury and other conditions that damage memory circuits could potentially be treated using similar prosthetic devices. Instead of trying to repair damaged neurons, doctors could bypass the damage entirely, using artificial systems to restore access to memories that remain stored in undamaged brain regions. But the technology also raises fascinating questions about the nature of memory itself. If memories can be recorded, stored digitally, and played back into different brains, what distinguishes natural memories from artificial ones? Could we eventually record a person's entire life experience and transfer it to someone else? Could we back up human consciousness the same way we back up computer files? The enhancement paradox. As scientists develop increasingly powerful tools for manipulating memory, they're discovering an unexpected truth that challenges our assumptions about what perfect memory would actually be like. Dr. Adam Ghazali's research at the University of California, San Francisco, has revealed that people who try to remember everything actually end up remembering less of what truly matters. This finding emerged from studies of individuals with exceptional memory abilities and experiments with memory enhancement techniques. Ghazali's team found that the human brain's capacity for storing information isn't unlimited. More importantly, the brain's ability to retrieve relevant information becomes compromised when it's overwhelmed with too much data. Think of your brain like a vast library. A good librarian doesn't just collect every book ever written. They carefully curate the collection, keeping the most valuable and relevant materials while discarding outdated or redundant information. Similarly, your brain doesn't just passively store every experience you've ever had. It actively decides what deserves to be preserved and what should be forgotten. Ghazali's research shows that this editorial process is crucial for effective memory function. People who score highest on memory tests aren't those who remember the most information overall, but those who are best at remembering relevant information while filtering out irrelevant details. The ability to forget, it turns out, is just as important as the ability to remember. This creates what researchers call the enhancement paradox. As we develop technologies that can preserve and restore memories with increasing precision, we risk overwhelming the very systems we're trying to improve. Perfect memory, rather than being a superpower, might actually be a disability that prevents us from thinking clearly and making good decisions. The paradox extends to our digital lives as well. Our smartphones and computers can store vast amounts of information, creating what researchers call external memory systems. But studies show that people who rely heavily on these digital memory aids actually remember less information in their biological memory systems. The brain, sensing that information is readily available elsewhere, becomes less likely to form strong internal memories. This doesn't mean that memory enhancement technologies are inherently problematic. Instead, it suggests that the most effective approaches will be those that work with the brain's natural forgetting mechanisms, rather than trying to override them completely. The goal isn't to eliminate forgetting, but to give people more control over what they remember and what they let go. Understanding this paradox is crucial as we move forward with memory enhancement research. The scientists who are learning to resurrect forgotten memories aren't just developing new technologies, they're discovering fundamental principles about how memory works and why forgetting evolved as such an important part of human cognition. The ethical frontier. As these memory manipulation technologies become more sophisticated, they're raising ethical questions that humanity has never had to confront before. The ability to selectively restore, enhance, or even transfer memories could fundamentally alter what it means to be human. If we can artificially access forgotten memories, do we have an obligation to help people recover traumatic experiences that their minds have protectively suppressed? Consider the implications for the justice system. If witnesses to crimes could have their forgotten memories artificially restored, it might help solve cases that would otherwise remain unsolved. But it could also lead to the recovery of false memories or traumatic experiences that were better left forgotten. The line between helpful memory recovery and psychological harm becomes increasingly blurred as our technological capabilities advance. There are also questions about identity and authenticity. If memories can be transferred between individuals, what happens to our sense of personal identity? Are we the sum of our experiences, or something more fundamental that persists even when our memories change? If someone receives artificial memories of experiences they never actually had, are those memories truly theirs in any meaningful sense? The memory hunters working in laboratories around the world are acutely aware of these ethical implications. They're not just developing new technologies, they're helping to define the boundaries of human enhancement and the responsibilities that come with the power to manipulate consciousness itself. The future of memory. The research emerging from these laboratories is painting a picture of a future where forgetting becomes optional, where lost memories can be recovered, and where the boundaries between natural and artificial memory become increasingly blurred. But perhaps most importantly, this research is revealing that forgetting isn't the enemy we thought it was. The ability to forget is one of the most sophisticated features of human cognition. It allows us to move past traumatic experiences, to update our beliefs when we encounter new information, and to focus on what's most important in each moment. The memory hunters aren't just learning to defeat forgetting, they're learning to understand it, to work with it, and to harness its power for healing and growth. As we stand on the threshold of unprecedented control over human memory, we're discovering that the most important question isn't whether we can remember everything, but whether we should. The forgotten memories sleeping in your brain right now aren't lost treasures waiting to be recovered. They're carefully curated absences that help make you who you are. The memory hunters have given us a glimpse into a future where the boundaries between remembering and forgetting become fluid, where consciousness itself becomes editable, and where the very nature of human experience can be transformed through technology. But they've also reminded us that in the rush to remember everything, we must not forget the profound wisdom that comes from learning what to let go. Chapter 4. The Mercy of Forgetting. There's something your brain does every single day that could save your life or destroy it completely. It decides what stays and what gets erased forever, and sometimes that choice makes the difference between living in peace or living in hell. You see, we've spent this entire journey discovering how forgetting works, why it happens, and whether we can control it. But we haven't talked about the most important question of all. Should we want to remember everything? Because what I'm about to show you will prove that sometimes the most merciful thing your mind can do is let go. And sometimes that mercy becomes the most dangerous force you'll ever face. The human brain wasn't designed for the world we live in today. For millions of years, our ancestors faced immediate threats that required immediate responses. See a predator, run, find food, eat, survive the day, worry about tomorrow later. But modern life has created something unprecedented in human history. Memories so painful they can kill you, even when you're completely safe. This is the paradox of forgetting in the 21st century. The same mechanism that helped our ancestors survive is now the battleground where millions of people fight for their sanity every single day. And understanding this battle will change everything you think you know about your own mind. When memory becomes prison, meet Sarah Chen. She's a decorated army medic who saved dozens of lives during 3 tours in Afghanistan. She should be proud of her service, celebrated as a hero. Instead, she's sitting in a therapist's office, describing how her own memories are slowly killing her. "I can smell the smoke from the IED explosion like it happened 5 minutes ago," Sarah tells her therapist. "I can feel the weight of Corporal Martinez in my arms as I tried to save him. I can hear his last words. Every single detail is crystal clear, and it plays in my head 20, 30, 40 times a day. I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time in 3 years." Sarah has post-traumatic stress disorder, and her case illustrates something terrifying about human memory. Remember when we learned that forgetting is supposed to fade traumatic experiences over time? Well, PTSD represents a catastrophic failure of that system. The brain's normal forgetting mechanisms have broken down completely, trapping Sarah in an endless loop of reliving her worst moments. Dr. Kerry Ressler at Harvard Medical School has spent 15 years studying this phenomenon, and his research reveals something shocking. The brains of PTSD patients aren't just remembering trauma differently. They're physically different. The hippocampus, that crucial memory processing center we've talked about, actually shrinks in trauma victims. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's fear center, becomes hyperactive and enlarged. What does this mean? It means that traumatic memories bypass the normal forgetting process entirely. Instead of being filed away and gradually fading like normal memories, they get stuck in a continuous present tense loop. Your brain treats a memory from 5 years ago as if it's happening right now, flooding your system with stress hormones and fight-or-flight responses. But here's where the story gets even more complex. Dr. Ressler's team has discovered that this memory malfunction can be reversed through something called fear extinction therapy. They're literally teaching brains how to forget again, and the results are extraordinary. The process works like exposure therapy, but with a crucial neurological twist. Patients revisit their traumatic memories in a controlled, safe environment while taking a drug called D-cycloserine. This medication enhances neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new neural pathways. What happens next is remarkable. The brain begins to create new memories of the traumatic event. Memories where the patient is safe, supported, and in control. These new memories don't erase the original trauma, but they do something even better. They provide an alternative pathway for the brain to follow. Instead of automatically triggering the fear response, the traumatic memory can now access these newer, safer associations. The brain literally learns how to forget the fear while keeping the factual memory intact. Sarah Chen went through this process 18 months ago. Today, she still remembers what happened in Afghanistan, but those memories no longer control her life. It's like the volume has been turned way down, she explains. I remember it happened, I remember it was terrible, but I don't feel like I'm there anymore. I can sleep through the night. I can enjoy dinner with my family without jumping at every sound. This isn't just about treating PTSD patients. Dr. Ressler's work has revealed a fundamental truth about human psychology. Healthy forgetting isn't just about letting go of information we don't need. It's about transforming painful experiences from present-tense nightmares into past-tense memories we can live with. The Alzheimer's paradox. Now let me take you somewhere that will challenge everything you think you know about memory loss. We're walking through the halls of Sunrise Memory Care Center in Portland, Oregon, and what you're about to witness will completely upend your understanding of what it means to forget. Margaret Thompson is 82 years old, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 4 years ago. She can't remember her daughter's name, she doesn't recognize her own home, and she often forgets how to use basic objects like forks and telephones. By every conventional measure, Margaret's memory loss represents a devastating tragedy. But talk to Margaret for 5 minutes and you'll discover something unexpected. She's laughing more than she has in decades. She's not worried about paying bills or meeting deadlines or maintaining her reputation in the community. She's not haunted by regrets about missed opportunities or bitter about old grudges. For the first time in her adult life, Margaret is living completely in the present moment. Mum is happier now than she's been since Dad died, her daughter Lisa tells me. I know that sounds terrible to say, but it's true. She spent 20 years after his death carrying around all this sadness and worry. The bills, the house maintenance, the family drama, the health scares, it was crushing her. Now she doesn't remember any of it, she just experiences each moment as it comes. This is what researchers call the Alzheimer's paradox. While patients lose precious memories and cognitive abilities, many also report feeling freed from decades of accumulated psychological burdens. Dr. Daniel Schachter at Harvard University has studied this phenomenon extensively, and his findings reveal something profound about the relationship between memory and well-being. We tend to think of memory as purely beneficial, Dr. Schachter explains, but that's not entirely true. Memory also means carrying forward every disappointment, every failure, every moment of embarrassment or regret. For some people, especially as they age, the weight of accumulated negative memories can become overwhelming. Alzheimer's disease obviously isn't a treatment we would ever recommend. The cognitive losses are devastating and the impact on families is heartbreaking. But studying this condition has taught us something crucial about the hidden costs of remembering everything. Perfect memory isn't perfect. It's often a form of psychological imprisonment. This insight has led to revolutionary approaches in elder care. Some memory care facilities have stopped trying to force patients to remember what they've forgotten. Instead, they focus on creating positive experiences in the present moment. They've discovered that patients who can't remember yesterday's activities can still experience today's joy, and that joy is just as real and valuable as any memory. The paradox deepens when you consider the families affected by Alzheimer's. Many report that while they grieve the loss of shared memories, they also witness their loved ones finding a kind of peace that had eluded them for years. It's as if the disease strips away not just memories, but also the psychological armor we build up over decades of disappointment and loss. I miss being able to talk to Mum about our family history, Lisa continues, but I love seeing her smile at simple things like a butterfly in the garden or a song on the radio. She used to be so anxious all the time, so focused on problems and responsibilities. Now she notices beauty in ways she never did before. This doesn't mean we should romanticize dementia or memory loss. The suffering is real, and the losses are profound. But it does mean we need to reconsider our assumption that remembering more is always better than remembering less. Childhood's necessary amnesia. Here's a question that will blow your mind. Why can't you remember being born, or learning to walk, or your first birthday? You experienced these momentous events. Your brain was active and recording information, so where did those memories go? The answer reveals one of the most sophisticated forms of forgetting in the human experience, childhood amnesia. And far from being a glitch in the system, this forgetting process is absolutely essential for becoming a functional adult. Dr. Patricia Bauer at Emory University has spent decades studying infant memory, and her research reveals something extraordinary. Babies and toddlers actually have excellent memories. They can remember faces, recognize voices, and learn complex behaviors. But these memories are stored in a completely different system than adult memories. And as children develop language and abstract thinking, their brains actively erase these early experiences to make room for more sophisticated forms of memory. Think about it this way. An infant's brain is like a computer running on a basic operating system. It can handle simple programs and store basic information, but to run complex software, it needs to upgrade to a more advanced operating system. The upgrade process requires wiping the hard drive and starting fresh. The neural circuits that support infant memory are fundamentally incompatible with the circuits that support adult memory, Dr. Bauer explains. As children develop language, their brains undergo massive reorganization. The hippocampus literally changes structure, forming new connections and pruning old ones. This process is so dramatic that it essentially formats the memory storage system. But why is this necessary? Why couldn't evolution design a brain that keeps all memories from birth? The answer lies in the different cognitive demands of infancy versus adulthood. Babies need to learn basic survival skills, recognize caregivers, understand simple cause and effect, develop motor control. Adults need to engage in abstract reasoning, language processing, social cooperation, and long-term planning. These two types of thinking require completely different neural architectures. The brain circuits that help a toddler learn to walk would actually interfere with an adult's ability to engage in complex reasoning. The forgetting of early childhood isn't a bug. It's a feature that allows for the development of higher-order thinking. This process happens gradually, which is why you might have scattered memories from ages 3 or 4, but nothing from earlier. Your brain is essentially performing a controlled demolition of your old memory system while simultaneously constructing a new one. It's one of the most remarkable feats of biological engineering in the natural world. Consider what would happen if this process didn't work properly. Children who retain too many infant-style memories often struggle with language development and abstract thinking. Their brains become cluttered with sensory impressions and emotional fragments that interfere with the development of coherent, narrative memory. On the other hand, children who forget too much too quickly may struggle with attachment and basic learning patterns. The timing of childhood amnesia has to be precisely calibrated to allow for optimal development. Every child must essentially forget who they were as a baby in order to become who they need to be as a person, Dr. Bauer concludes. It's a form of psychological death and rebirth that we all go through, and most of us have no idea it happened. This insight has profound implications for how we think about personal identity. The person you are today, literally, could not exist if you still retained all your infant memories. Your adult consciousness required the sacrifice of your infant consciousness. You are who you are because of what you've forgotten, not despite it. The social memory. Everything we've discussed so far has focused on individual forgetting. But there's another dimension to this story that's equally important: how entire cultures and societies use strategic forgetting to heal from collective trauma. What happens when millions of people need to forget the same terrible thing? Dr. Pascal Boyer at Washington University has studied this phenomenon across dozens of post-conflict societies, and his findings reveal something remarkable about human social psychology. Cultures that successfully rebuild after war, genocide, or other collective traumas don't just remember differently, they forget differently too. Take the example of post-apartheid South Africa. When apartheid ended in 1994, the country faced an impossible choice: demand justice for decades of systematic oppression, which would likely lead to civil war, or find a way to move forward without fully accounting for past atrocities. They chose a third path that involved a very specific kind of forgetting. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, created a process where perpetrators could confess their crimes in exchange for amnesty. Victims could tell their stories and be officially acknowledged. But crucially, the society as a whole agreed not to dwell on these confessions indefinitely. The goal wasn't to preserve every detail of past suffering, but to transform it into a foundation for future cooperation. Forgiveness without forgetting would be impossible, Archbishop Tutu explained at the time. If we remembered every injustice with perfect clarity forever, we would never be able to work together as a nation. This doesn't mean erasing history or pretending atrocities didn't happen. Rather, it means allowing the emotional intensity of traumatic memories to fade over time while preserving their lessons. It's the difference between remembering that something terrible happened and being trapped in the emotional reality of that terrible thing. Dr. Boyer's research shows that successful post-conflict societies develop what he calls selective social amnesia. They maintain factual records of historical events while allowing the emotional charge of those events to dissipate through cultural rituals, storytelling, and generational turnover. Children born after a conflict don't inherit the emotional trauma of their parents' experiences, Dr. Boyer explains. They know the history, but they don't feel it in the same visceral way. This emotional distance is crucial for breaking cycles of revenge and allowing societies to move forward. We can see this process at work in many post-war societies. Germany has maintained detailed historical records of the Holocaust while building a culture that doesn't define itself primarily through past trauma. Rwanda has established annual genocide remembrance ceremonies while focusing national energy on development and reconciliation rather than revenge. But this process can also go wrong. Societies that forget too much risk repeating historical mistakes. Those that remember too much remain trapped in cycles of conflict. The challenge is finding the right balance between historical awareness and psychological healing. Every society has to decide what to remember actively and what to let fade naturally, Dr. Boyer continues. This isn't about denying truth or avoiding responsibility. It's about recognizing that perfect historical memory can be just as destructive as perfect historical amnesia. This social dimension of forgetting reveals something crucial about memory's role in human cooperation. Our ability to let go of past grievances, to forgive without necessarily forgetting completely, is what makes large-scale human societies possible. Without strategic forgetting, every group would be trapped forever by the accumulated weight of historical injustices. The implications extend far beyond post-conflict societies. Every family, every workplace, every community must navigate the balance between remembering important lessons and letting go of minor slights. The couples who stay married longest aren't those who remember every kind gesture their partner has ever made. They're the ones who actively forget the small daily irritations and disappointments. As we reach the end of this chapter, you should be feeling fundamentally different about forgetting than you did when we started. What seemed like a simple biological process has revealed itself to be one of the most sophisticated and essential aspects of human psychology. The mercy of forgetting isn't just about making room for new memories or preventing cognitive overload. It's about the difference between surviving trauma and being destroyed by it. It's about the possibility of growth, change, and redemption. It's about the foundation of forgiveness, both personal and social. Sarah Chen couldn't heal from her war trauma until her brain learned how to forget the emotional intensity of those experiences. Margaret Thompson couldn't find peace in her final years until Alzheimer's freed her from decades of accumulated worry and regret. Children can't develop into functional adults without forgetting the sensory chaos of infancy. Societies can't move beyond collective trauma without learning to let go of past grievances. But we've also seen the danger of forgetting too much or forgetting the wrong things. PTSD represents forgetting gone wrong, the brain's inability to process trauma normally. Dementia involves the tragic loss of precious memories alongside the relief from psychological burdens. Childhood amnesia, while necessary, means we lose our earliest experiences of wonder and discovery. Social forgetting can enable the repetition of historical atrocities. The pattern that emerges is clear. Forgetting isn't good or bad in itself. It's a tool, and like any tool, its value depends entirely on how it's used. The healthiest individuals and societies are those that have learned to forget strategically, holding on to what serves them and letting go of what doesn't. This understanding points toward a profound realization about human nature. We're not just remembering creatures who happen to forget sometimes, we are forgetting creatures who remember selectively. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are depend as much on what we choose not to remember as on what we preserve. But this raises an urgent question that will define the next phase of our journey. If forgetting is so crucial to human well-being, what happens when forgetting becomes impossible? What happens when technology gives us perfect, permanent, inescapable memory? The answer will shock you, because we're living through that experiment right now, and the results are already changing what it means to be human. Chapter 5. The Digital Eternity. Your brain is making a choice it has never had to make in 4 million years of human evolution. Every time you take a photo, post a status, or send a message, you are overriding one of the most fundamental processes that makes you human. You are choosing to never forget. But here's what the tech companies won't tell you. This choice might be destroying the very essence of what it means to be alive. Because for the first time in human history, forgetting might become impossible. And that terrifies the very scientists who are making it happen. The external brain. Think about the device in your pocket right now. It contains more information about your life than your own brain can access. Every photo you've taken, every message you've sent, every place you've been tracked by GPS, every song you've listened to, every video you've watched, every person you've contacted. Your smartphone has become what scientists call an external brain, and it never, ever forgets. Dr. Merlin Donald spent decades studying how humans evolved to use external memory systems. He discovered that our species made 3 great leaps in cognition. First, we developed the ability to mimic and gesture. Then we learned to speak and create oral traditions. Finally, we invented writing and could store information outside our heads. But what we're experiencing now is different. It's not just storing information externally, it's storing ourselves externally. Every day you create a digital version of your consciousness that is more detailed and more permanent than anything your biological brain could ever maintain. Your phone knows not just what you did, but when you did it, where you did it, who you were with, how long it took, and what you did immediately before and after. It creates a timeline of your existence that is more accurate than your own memory. But here's where it gets disturbing. Victor Meyer-Schönberger, one of the world's leading experts on digital memory, warns that perfect digital memory might destroy our capacity for forgiveness, growth, and second chances. Think about it this way. Every embarrassing thing you've ever done, every mistake you've ever made, every moment of weakness or poor judgment, it's all there, permanent and searchable. Your biological brain would have forgotten most of these moments by now. It would have let them fade into the background, allowing you to move forward without the constant weight of every past mistake. But your digital brain never forgets. It holds on to everything with perfect clarity, creating a prison of permanent shame and regret. The memory merchants. In the gleaming offices of Silicon Valley, a new kind of business has emerged. These companies don't sell products or services. They sell immortality, not physical immortality, but something potentially more valuable. The promise that your memories, your experiences, your very consciousness will live forever in the digital realm. Google's chief futurist, Ray Kurzweil, has made a prediction that will either thrill you or terrify you. He believes that by 2030, we will have the technology to upload human consciousness directly to the cloud. Every memory you've ever formed, every experience you've ever had, every thought you've ever thought, all of it preserved in perfect digital form, accessible forever, impossible to lose. The companies building this future frame it as the ultimate human achievement. They promise to solve death itself by preserving the essence of who you are in digital form. Your uploaded consciousness could theoretically live forever, never forgetting, never losing memories to time or age or disease. But here's what these memory merchants don't talk about. The scientists who actually study memory are horrified by this vision. Dr. Miguel Nicolelis, one of the world's leading neuroscientists, argues that memories without forgetting aren't memories at all. They're just data, and data isn't human. Think about what makes a memory meaningful to you. It's not just the factual information. It's the way that memory has changed over time, the way it connects to other experiences, the way it has been colored by emotion and perspective, and the passage of years. The memory that never changes, never fades, never transforms. That's not a human memory. That's a computer file. The memory merchants are selling us a version of immortality that might actually be a form of death. They're promising to preserve us forever by turning us into something we've never been, beings that cannot forget, cannot change, cannot grow beyond our past experiences. The right to be forgotten. In a small Spanish town, a man named Mario Costeja Gonzalez made a discovery that would change the future of human memory forever. When he searched for his own name on Google, he found a newspaper article from 1998 about his house being repossessed. The financial crisis that had caused his troubles was long over. He had rebuilt his life, paid his debts, and moved on. But Google never forgot. Every time someone searched his name, they would find this embarrassing moment from his past, frozen in time, defining him forever. Mario decided to fight back. He took Google to court, arguing that he had a fundamental human right to be forgotten. The case made it all the way to the European Court of Justice, where judges had to grapple with a question that had never existed before in human history. Do we have the right to forget our own past? The court ruled in Mario's favour, establishing what is now known as the right to be forgotten. This ruling recognized something profound. Sometimes forgetting is a human right that must be protected by law. The ability to move beyond our past mistakes, to not be permanently defined by our worst moments, is essential to human dignity and growth. But implementing this right has revealed just how complex the relationship between memory and identity really is. Should a former criminal be able to erase news articles about their crimes? Should a politician be able to delete records of their past positions? Should a doctor be able to remove traces of malpractice suits? Every day, European courts receive thousands of requests from people who want parts of their digital past erased. They range from the heartbreaking parents trying to remove photos of their deceased children that have become internet memes to the controversial public figures trying to sanitize their historical record. The judges making these decisions have become something unprecedented in human history. Memory editors for our species. They decide what should be remembered and what should be forgotten, not just for individuals but for all of humanity. The power to shape collective memory, once held only by the passage of time, now rests in the hands of courts and corporations, the memory police. But the story gets darker. As we've built systems that never forget, we've also created the tools for unprecedented memory manipulation. Governments and corporations now have the power to selectively edit digital memories, changing historical records in real time, making inconvenient truths disappear while amplifying helpful narratives. China's social credit system represents the most advanced example of memory control ever created. Every action you take, every purchase, every social media post, every person you associate with is recorded and scored. But here's the truly disturbing part. The system doesn't just remember everything you do, it can also selectively forget things that serve the government's interests, while ensuring that your mistakes follow you forever. In democratic countries, the manipulation is more subtle but equally powerful. Social media algorithms don't just show you content, they shape your memories by determining which experiences you're reminded of and which ones fade into obscurity. Facebook's On This Day feature doesn't randomly select memories to show you. It uses artificial intelligence to choose which moments from your past you should remember, effectively editing your personal history. Search engines are even more powerful memory editors. When you try to remember something, you don't just access your biological memory, you search online. But search results aren't neutral. They're ranked by algorithms that can be manipulated, biased, or deliberately altered. The company that controls search results controls what version of reality gets remembered and what version gets forgotten. The implications are staggering. For the first time in human history, the stories we tell about our past can be changed retroactively. Historical events can be gradually erased from public memory by manipulating search results and social media feeds. Inconvenient truths can disappear not through violent censorship, but through subtle algorithmic adjustments that make certain information harder to find. We're witnessing the emergence of what George Orwell called the Ministry of Truth organizations, with the power to rewrite history. But instead of crude propaganda, they use sophisticated technology to shape memory itself. They don't need to burn books when they can simply make sure nobody searches for them. The humanity test. As we stand at this crossroads between biological and digital memory, we face a question that will define the future of human consciousness. Are we about to lose the most human thing about being human? The ability to forget is not a bug in the human system. It's a feature. It's what allows us to heal from trauma, to forgive others and ourselves, to grow beyond our past mistakes, to focus on what matters rather than being overwhelmed by irrelevant details. Forgetting is what makes wisdom possible, because wisdom isn't about remembering everything, it's about knowing what to remember and what to let go. But the digital systems we're building don't understand this. They operate on the assumption that more memory is always better, that perfect recall is the ultimate goal, that forgetting is a problem to be solved rather than a process to be respected. They're creating a world where every embarrassing moment, every poor decision, every private thought made public will follow us forever. The scientists who study memory are trying to warn us. They understand that human consciousness isn't just about storing information. It's about the dynamic process of remembering and forgetting, the constant reconstruction of our past in service of our future. Remove forgetting from this process, and you don't create a superhuman, you create something that isn't human at all. The choice we make in the next few years about how to handle digital memory will determine whether our children grow up in a world of second chances or permanent shame, of growth and forgiveness or stagnation and judgment, of human consciousness or digital simulation. The technology to create perfect digital memory is almost here. The question isn't whether we can build it. The question is whether we should. Because once we create systems that never forget, we might discover that we've forgotten how to be human. And if that happens, no amount of digital storage will be able to help us remember what we've lost. Chapter 6. The Art of Letting Go. Your brain is actively working against you right now. As you listen to these words, sophisticated neural networks are making split-second decisions about what deserves to survive in your mind and what must be eliminated forever. This isn't a malfunction, it's mastery. And some of the wisest people on Earth have spent their entire lives perfecting this process. What if I told you that the secret to true peace, explosive creativity, and genuine happiness isn't found in remembering more, but in forgetting better? What if the greatest minds in history succeeded not because of their perfect recall, but because of their exquisite ability to let go? Today we're diving into the most counterintuitive chapter of our memory journey. We're going to discover why forgetting isn't just a biological necessity, it's an art form, and mastering this art might be the difference between a life of mental chaos and a life of profound clarity. The master forgetters. Deep in the mountains of Tibet, There exists a monastery where monks have been practicing something extraordinary for over 1,000 years. These aren't ordinary meditation retreats or spiritual exercises. These monks have developed techniques so powerful that modern neuroscientists are scrambling to understand them. What makes these monks different isn't what they remember. It's what they've learned to forget. Through decades of practice, they've discovered how to intentionally release memories that cause suffering, anger, and mental clutter. They call it the liberation of the mind from its own creations. Dr. Richard Davidson, one of the world's leading neuroscientists, spent years studying these monks with the most advanced brain imaging technology available. What he discovered challenged everything we thought we knew about memory and mental health. When these experienced practitioners meditated, their brains showed patterns that seemed almost impossible. The areas responsible for holding on to painful memories became dramatically less active. Meanwhile, the regions associated with emotional regulation and cognitive flexibility lit up like fireworks. These monks weren't just feeling better, they were literally rewiring their brains to forget more effectively. But here's what's truly remarkable. These changes weren't temporary. After just 8 weeks of training ordinary people in these techniques, Davidson's team found permanent alterations in brain structure. The participants had strengthened the exact neural circuits responsible for healthy forgetting. One monk, who'd been practicing for 40 years, explained it this way. When a painful memory arises, most people grab onto it like a drowning person grabbing a rock. We've learned to let it pass through us like water through a net. The memory doesn't disappear. It transforms into wisdom without the weight of suffering. This isn't about suppressing memories or pretending painful experiences never happened. It's about changing your relationship with those memories so they no longer control your present moment. The monks understand something profound. Memories are not facts about the past, they're constructions happening right now in your brain. And if they're being constructed now, they can be deconstructed now. The techniques they use are surprisingly practical. They practice observing memories without judgment, watching them arise and fade like clouds in the sky. They cultivate what they call mental spaciousness, the ability to hold experiences lightly rather than gripping them tightly. Most importantly, they train their minds to distinguish between useful remembering and harmful rumination. Creative destruction. Gabriel Garcia Marquez once said something that confused literary critics for decades. I write my best work by deliberately forgetting what actually happened. At first, this seemed like poetic nonsense. How could forgetting improve creativity? Wouldn't accurate memory make stories more authentic and compelling? But Marquez understood something that neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. Creativity doesn't come from perfect recall. It emerges from the beautiful space between memory and imagination. When we forget the rigid details of our experiences, we create room for something far more powerful to emerge. Here's how this works in your brain. When you try to recall a memory with perfect accuracy, you activate very specific neural pathways. These pathways are like well-worn roads that lead to the same destination every time. But when you allow details to fade, your brain starts making new connections. It begins linking that memory to other experiences, emotions and ideas in ways that would be impossible if you were locked into the literal facts. Consider how this plays out in the creative process. A novelist who remembers every exact detail of a conversation might write stilted dialogue that sounds mechanical and lifeless. But a novelist who remembers the emotional essence of that conversation while forgetting the specific words creates space for their creative mind to craft something that feels more true than truth itself. This principle extends far beyond writing. Musicians who try to perfectly recreate their influences often produce music that sounds derivative and uninspired. But musicians who absorb influences and then allow them to transform through forgetting create entirely new sounds. They're not copying, they're digesting and reimagining. Visual artists have long understood this intuitively. The Impressionists didn't paint what they saw, they painted what they remembered feeling about what they saw. By the time they reached their canvases, the sharp edges of literal perception had softened into something more emotionally authentic. But here's where it gets really interesting. Research shows that people who are slightly worse at exact recall are often significantly better at creative problem-solving. Their brains are more willing to make unexpected connections because they're not constrained by rigid adherence to original details. There's a neurological reason for this. The same brain networks that consolidate memories also generate creative insights. When these networks are overly focused on preservation, they have less capacity for innovation. But when they're allowed to be more flexible, when they're permitted to forget and reconstruct, they become creativity engines. This doesn't mean that all forgetting leads to creativity. Random, uncontrolled forgetting is just chaos. Creative forgetting is intentional and purposeful. It's about knowing which details to release so that deeper truths can emerge. It's about trusting that sometimes the most important aspects of an experience aren't the facts, but the feelings and insights those facts generated. The forgiveness connection. Deep in the Stanford University's psychology department, Dr. Fred Luskin made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of both forgiveness and memory. He found that people who struggle to forgive others show a very specific pattern in their brains. They have hyperactive neural networks dedicated to rehearsing grievances and maintaining detailed records of past hurts. But here's what's extraordinary. When these same people learned to forgive, their brains didn't just change emotionally, they changed structurally. The neural pathways responsible for holding on to painful memories began to weaken, while the circuits associated with emotional regulation and empathy grew stronger. Forgiveness, it turns out, is neurologically identical to strategic forgetting. When you truly forgive someone, you're not just changing your attitude toward them. You're literally allowing your brain to stop refreshing and reinforcing the neural patterns that keep that hurt alive in your memory. This isn't about pretending harmful things never happened or excusing bad behavior. It's about understanding that holding on to detailed catalogues of past hurts serves no useful purpose for your brain or your life. Every time you rehearse a grievance, you're essentially practicing hatred. Every time you choose to let those details fade, you're practicing freedom. The process works like this. When you're hurt by someone, your brain creates what researchers call grievance networks, complex neural patterns that link the memory of the hurt to emotions of anger, betrayal, and resentment. These networks are designed to keep you vigilant against future threats from that person. But here's the problem. These networks consume enormous amounts of mental energy. They're constantly running background processes, scanning new experiences for connections to old hurts. This is why people who hold grudges often feel emotionally exhausted. Their brains are dedicating massive resources to maintaining museums of past pain. Forgiveness interrupts this process. When you make a conscious decision to forgive, you're essentially telling your brain that it no longer needs to maintain these expensive grievance networks. The memories don't disappear immediately, but they stop being actively reinforced. Over time, they fade from vivid, emotionally charged experiences to distant, factual knowledge. Dr. Luskin's research shows that this process has profound effects on both mental and physical health. People who learn to forgive show lower levels of stress hormones, improved immune function, and reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. Their brains literally become more efficient because they're no longer wasting energy on maintaining grudges. But the most remarkable finding is this: people who practice forgiveness don't just feel better about specific hurts. They develop a general capacity for letting go that affects every area of their lives. They become better at releasing work stress, relationship conflicts, and everyday frustrations. Forgiveness training creates what researchers call emotional resilience, the ability to experience difficult emotions without being trapped by them. The wisdom of impermanence. In a small monastery in Dharamshala, India, something extraordinary happens every few months. Tibetan monks spend weeks creating intricate sand mandalas, elaborate geometric patterns made from millions of coloured sand grains. These creations are breathtakingly beautiful, requiring incredible patience, skill and artistic vision. And then, in a ceremony that lasts only minutes, they destroy them completely. To Western minds, this seems like madness. Why would anyone spend weeks creating something beautiful only to deliberately destroy it? But the monks understand something profound about the nature of memory, meaning, and human attachment that neuroscience is only now beginning to appreciate. The destruction of the mandala isn't an ending, it's the completion of the art. The real artistic achievement isn't the final pattern of sand, but the transformation that occurs in the artist's minds throughout the process of creation and release. They're practicing one of the most sophisticated forms of memory work ever developed, learning to find meaning in impermanence itself. This practice teaches something crucial about how memory works in our brains. We tend to think that the value of an experience depends on our ability to preserve it perfectly. We photograph everything, journal every detail, and struggle to hold on to the exact specifics of meaningful moments. But the monks understand that this grasping actually diminishes the value of experiences. When you know something is temporary, you pay attention to it differently. You're more present, more engaged, more fully invested in the moment itself rather than in your ability to capture it for later. The monks creating mandalas aren't distracted by thoughts of preservation. They're completely absorbed in the act of creation. Neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer has studied the brain patterns of people engaged in this type of impermanence meditation. What he found is remarkable. When people fully accept the temporary nature of their experiences, their brains show increased activity in areas associated with present moment awareness and decreased activity in regions linked to self-referential thinking and rumination. In other words, accepting impermanence doesn't make you care less. It makes you care more effectively. You stop wasting mental energy trying to preserve experiences and start investing that energy in fully experiencing them. This principle applies far beyond monastery walls. Consider how this wisdom might transform your relationship with your own memories. Instead of desperately trying to hold on to every detail of a beautiful moment, what if you allowed yourself to trust that the essence of that moment, the growth, the insight, the emotional expansion it created in you, would remain even as the specific details faded? The mandala creators understand that the real art lies not in the pattern itself, but in their ability to create something beautiful and then release it gracefully. They're not losing their creation, they're demonstrating mastery over attachment itself. This same principle governs healthy memory. The memories that serve us best aren't the ones we grip most tightly, but the ones we hold most lightly. They're the experiences that change us and then transform into wisdom, leaving us different than we were before, without requiring us to maintain perfect archives of exactly how that transformation occurred. The integration. What emerges from studying these masters of forgetting, the monks, the artists, the forgivers, the creators of impermanent beauty, is a profound understanding of what it means to have a healthy relationship with memory. They've discovered that the goal isn't to remember everything or to forget everything, but to develop the wisdom to know which memories serve your growth and which ones trap you in cycles of suffering. They understand that the brain's capacity for forgetting isn't a flaw to be overcome, but a sophisticated tool to be mastered. This mastery doesn't happen overnight. Like any skill, it requires practice, patience, and gradual development, but the neuroscience is clear. Your brain is already equipped with everything you need to transform your relationship with memory. The question isn't whether you can learn to forget more skillfully, it's whether you're willing to begin practicing. The monks who can release painful memories without suppressing them, the artists who can forget literal details to access deeper truths, the individuals who can forgive without becoming naive, and the creators who can invest fully in temporary beauty, they're all demonstrating the same fundamental capacity. They've learned to work with their brain's natural forgetting processes rather than against them. This is the art of letting go, not passive acceptance of mental chaos, but active cultivation of mental freedom. It's the recognition that your memories are not your identity, your past is not your prison, and your ability to forget skillfully might be the most important skill you never knew you needed to develop. The beautiful paradox is this: when you learn to forget artfully, you don't lose your memories, you liberate them. You transform them from rigid recordings that trap you in the past into flexible resources that serve your present. You discover that the deepest form of remembering isn't about preservation, it's about transformation. And that transformation is always happening right now, in this moment, as your brain decides what deserves to be carried forward and what can finally, gracefully be released. Chapter 7. What Remains. Your brain has been deceiving you your entire life, and you're about to discover the most beautiful lie it's ever told. Every memory you think defines you, every moment you believe shaped who you are, has been quietly transformed without your permission. But here's what will shock you most. This isn't a betrayal. It's the greatest gift your mind could ever give you. We've journeyed through 7 chapters, exploring where forgotten memories go, uncovering the hidden machinery of forgetting, and witnessing the cutting-edge science that's rewriting everything we thought we knew about human consciousness. But now we face the ultimate question that will change how you see yourself forever. If your memories are constantly changing and disappearing, what part of you actually remains? The answer will revolutionize your understanding of identity, consciousness, and what it truly means to be human, because what neuroscience has discovered about the deepest core of who you are will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself, the eternal return. Sarah sits in her living room, holding the same photo album that started our entire journey. Remember her? The mother desperately searching for evidence of her daughter's 5th birthday party. A memory that seemed so vivid yet left no trace in reality. 7 months have passed since our cameras first captured her confusion and frustration, but something extraordinary has happened to Sarah, something that reveals the most profound truth about human memory and identity. Sarah no longer cares whether that birthday party actually happened. Here's why this matters more than you could possibly imagine. She has discovered that the specific details of that day, the cake, the decorations, the guests, were never the real treasure. What remains, what has grown stronger with time, is something far more valuable. The overwhelming love she felt for her daughter that day, the protective instinct that made her want to create perfect moments, the deep satisfaction of being a mother who cares, these feelings haven't faded. They've actually intensified. This isn't just one woman's personal revelation. This is neuroscience revealing the most important distinction you'll ever understand, the difference between remembering events and absorbing their essence. Your brain has been performing a miracle of transformation your entire life, converting the raw data of experience into something infinitely more valuable: wisdom, character, and the deep emotional patterns that actually define who you are. The forgotten birthday party didn't disappear. It became part of Sarah's identity as a loving mother. The specific memory transformed into something eternal, her capacity to love unconditionally. This is what remains when memories fade, not the facts, but the fundamental truths they taught us about ourselves. The core self-doctor, Christoph Koch, one of the world's leading consciousness researchers, has spent decades searching for the biological basis of human identity. His findings will completely restructure how you understand yourself. Inside your brain, beneath the constantly changing stream of memories, experiences and thoughts, lies something that neuroscience is only beginning to comprehend. A core sense of self that remains remarkably stable throughout your entire lifetime. Here's what this means for you. Every personality test you've taken, every moment of self-doubt about who you really are, every time you've wondered if you're the same person you were 10 years ago, all of these concerns are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human identity. You are not the sum of your memories. You are not even the collection of your experiences. You are something far more mysterious and beautiful. Think about this carefully. You've forgotten more experiences than you currently remember, yet you still feel like the same person who lived through them. This isn't an illusion or a trick of consciousness. This is your core self, the deep underlying pattern of awareness that has been constant since childhood. It's the reason you can lose specific memories but retain your fundamental personality. It's why people with amnesia don't become different people. They simply lose access to certain information while remaining essentially themselves. This core self operates below the level of conscious memory. It's built not from what you remember, but from how you've learned to respond to life. Every forgotten experience has left microscopic traces in your neural architecture, not as retrievable memories, but as subtle shifts in how you perceive, react, and navigate the world. You are the accumulated wisdom of every moment you've lived, whether you remember those moments or not. The implications are staggering. Your identity isn't threatened by forgetting, it's actually created by it. Each forgotten memory doesn't represent a loss of self, but a refinement of who you are. Your brain has been carefully curating your experiences, keeping the essence while releasing the details, building a core identity that transcends any individual memory. The generational gift. The most beautiful aspect of forgetting isn't personal, it's generational. Every generation's ability to partially forget the pain, prejudices and limitations of their parents creates the possibility for human progress. This isn't accidental. This is evolution's greatest gift to our species, the capacity for each new generation to start partially fresh while retaining essential wisdom. Consider the profound implications. If children inherited every trauma, every fear, every limiting belief of their parents with perfect clarity, human civilization would be trapped in an endless cycle of repeated mistakes. But forgetting creates gaps in the transmission of pain, spaces where new possibilities can emerge. Your grandparents' deepest fears don't have to become your fears. Your parents' limitations don't have to define your potential. This selective forgetting operates at both individual and cultural levels. Societies that experience collective trauma don't pass on every detail of suffering to their children. Instead, they pass on resilience, wisdom gained through hardship, and the deep knowledge that survival is possible. The specific memories of pain fade, but the strength developed through overcoming that pain becomes part of the cultural identity. This is why each generation believes they can change the world, because they've forgotten enough of the previous generation's defeats to believe victory is possible. This isn't naive optimism. This is the biological basis for human progress. Forgetting doesn't just heal individuals. It heals our entire species by allowing each generation to imagine possibilities their parents couldn't see. Your ability to forget your childhood disappointments isn't a flaw in your memory system. It's what allows you to maintain hope as an adult. Your tendency to minimize past failures isn't denial. It's your brain preparing you to take risks that previous experience might discourage. Forgetting is evolution's way of ensuring that human potential isn't limited by human history. The beautiful paradox. The participants in our documentary have undergone a transformation that reveals the most counterintuitive truth about memory and identity. Those who have learned to understand forgetting have discovered something remarkable. The less they try to remember everything, the more meaningful their memories become. The more they accept forgetting, the more present they become in creating new experiences. Marcus, the man with hyperthymesia who remembers every day since age 11, has learned meditation techniques that give him moments of blessed forgetting. For the first time in decades, he experiences what the rest of us take for granted, the peace of letting go. He describes these moments as the most precious experiences of his adult life, not because he's remembering something beautiful, but because he's finally able to forget something painful. The combat veteran struggling with PTSD has discovered that healing doesn't require remembering his trauma differently. It requires learning to forget it strategically. Through therapeutic techniques that work with his brain's natural forgetting mechanisms, he's not erasing the experience, but allowing it to transform from a vivid, intrusive memory into distant wisdom about survival and resilience. The daughter caring for her mother with Alzheimer's has made the most profound discovery of all. She realizes that her love for her mother doesn't depend on her mother's ability to remember her. In fact, she's discovered that love exists in a realm completely separate from memory. Her mother may forget her name, her face, even their relationship, but something deeper remains, a fundamental recognition, a comfort in each other's presence that transcends memory entirely. These stories reveal the beautiful paradox at the heart of human existence. We are most ourselves, not when we remember everything, but when we remember what matters and forget what doesn't. The art of being human isn't about perfect recall. It's about perfect discernment. It's about allowing our brains to perform their miraculous function of transforming experience into wisdom, converting the temporary into the eternal. The answer. We began this journey asking where memories go when they're forgotten. After exploring the deepest reaches of neuroscience, psychology and human experience, we can finally provide the answer that will change how you see your own mind forever. Forgotten memories don't go anywhere because they never existed as separate things to begin with. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that has confused humanity for centuries. We think of memories as objects that can be lost, but they're actually processes that transform. When a memory seems to disappear, it's not vanishing. It's becoming something else entirely. Every forgotten experience transforms into wisdom that guides your future decisions. Every faded emotion becomes part of your emotional intelligence. Every lost detail contributes to your intuitive understanding of the world. Nothing is actually forgotten in the sense of being destroyed. Everything is transformed in the service of who you're becoming. Your forgotten childhood fears become adult confidence. Your forgotten embarrassments become social grace. Your forgotten failures become resilience. Your forgotten loves become the capacity to love again. The memories themselves may fade, but their essential contribution to your character becomes permanent. This is why trying to preserve every memory is not only impossible, but counterproductive. Your brain's sophisticated forgetting mechanisms aren't flaws to be overcome. They're the most advanced information processing system ever created. They're constantly sorting through your experiences, keeping what serves your growth and releasing what would limit it. The answer to where memories go is profound in its simplicity. They go into making you who you are. They dissolve into your identity, merge with your wisdom, and become the invisible foundation upon which your future is built. Forgetting isn't the opposite of remembering. It's remembering's most essential partner in the creation of human consciousness. As we reach the end of our exploration, you're experiencing the very phenomenon we've been studying. Your brain is already beginning to forget specific details of what you've learned while retaining its essential meaning. Some facts will fade, particular examples will blur, exact quotes will transform into general understanding. This isn't a failure of your attention or a limitation of your memory. This is your brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. The details that fade will make room for the insights that remain. The specific research findings that blur will allow the broader truths to become part of your worldview. The forgotten specifics will transform into a new understanding of yourself and your place in the mysterious process of human consciousness. You're not a collection of memories, you're not a database of experiences, you're something far more beautiful and mysterious. You are a conscious being, capable of transforming every moment of existence into wisdom, love, and the infinite potential for growth. Your forgotten memories haven't disappeared. They've become the very foundation of who you are. The most beautiful realization is this. In learning to accept forgetting, you free yourself to be fully present for remembering. In understanding that memories transform rather than disappear, you can let go of the impossible task of preserving everything and embrace the beautiful task of living meaningfully. You now carry within you a new understanding of the most human thing about being human, our extraordinary capacity to forget beautifully, to transform experience into wisdom, and to remain mysteriously, wonderfully ourselves throughout a lifetime of constant change. This isn't knowledge you need to remember perfectly. It's truth you need to let transform you. Welcome to the rest of your life, where every forgotten moment becomes part of the miracle of who you're becoming. Conclusion. Something extraordinary is happening in your brain right now, and recognizing it will fundamentally change how you experience every remaining moment of your life. As you process these final words, your neural networks are already performing the very transformation we've spent this entire journey exploring. Your brain is deciding which details of this documentary will fade into the background and which insights will become permanent fixtures of who you are. This isn't just an interesting observation. This is the most profound demonstration possible of everything we've discovered together. Your consciousness is actively participating in the miracle of forgetting and remembering right here, right now. The specific statistics about synaptic pruning will likely blur. The exact names of researchers might become uncertain. Even some of the stories that moved you most deeply will lose their sharp edges. But something infinitely more valuable is taking their place. Your brain is extracting the essential wisdom from our shared exploration and weaving it into the fundamental fabric of how you understand yourself and the world. This process isn't happening to you. You are this process. The transformation of specific memories into lasting wisdom isn't something your brain does for you. It's something you are doing as a conscious being, participating in the most sophisticated information processing system in the known universe. Understanding this meta-moment, this awareness of your own forgetting in real time, represents a profound shift in consciousness. You're no longer just experiencing memory and forgetting unconsciously. You're witnessing the actual mechanism by which human beings transform experience into wisdom, moment by moment, memory by memory, throughout the entire arc of a human life. The ripple effect. The insights you're absorbing right now won't remain contained within your individual consciousness. Human knowledge works through a process that mirrors exactly what we've learned about individual memory. Some details fade while essential truths propagate outward, transforming everyone they touch. You've become part of a larger forgetting and remembering process that spans not just your lifetime, but the entire evolution of human understanding. When you share these insights with others, you won't reproduce this documentary word for word. You can't, because your brain has already begun its selective editing process. Instead, you'll share something more valuable, your personal understanding of these truths, filtered through your unique perspective and life experience. The specific facts will blend with your own story, creating new versions of these insights that will resonate with different people in ways the original documentary never could. This is how human knowledge actually spreads and evolves, not through perfect reproduction of information, but through the creative transformation that happens when insights pass through the forgetting and remembering process of each individual consciousness. Your version of these truths will be different from mine, and that difference isn't a flaw. It's the engine of human intellectual and emotional evolution. Consider the profound implications. Every person who encounters these ideas through you will receive them in a form that couldn't have existed without your particular way of understanding and forgetting. Your individual forgetting process becomes part of the collective remembering process of our entire species. The details you lose become the spaces where new insights can emerge for others. The generational inheritance. The children in your life, whether your own children, students, or young people you influence, will inherit not the specific memories of this documentary, but something far more valuable. They'll inherit your transformed relationship with memory and forgetting. They'll grow up with an adult in their lives who understands that identity transcends memory, that forgetting is a gift rather than a loss, and that the deepest truths about being human lie not in what we remember, but in how we transform experience into wisdom. This inheritance works through mechanisms we're only beginning to understand. Children absorb not just the explicit lessons we teach them, but the implicit attitudes we carry about fundamental aspects of human experience. When you approach your own memory lapses with curiosity rather than anxiety, when you view forgetting as transformation rather than loss, when you understand that your core self transcends any individual memory, These attitudes become part of the environment in which the next generation develops their relationship with their own minds. The specific facts about neuroscience that you've learned today will likely fade from your active memory within months or years. But your fundamentally altered relationship with forgetting will influence how you respond to memory challenges for the rest of your life. More importantly, it will influence how the children around you learn to understand their own minds. You're not just changing your own relationship with memory, you're participating in the evolution of how human beings understand consciousness itself. This is how profound insights propagate across generations, not through perfect preservation of information, but through the gradual transformation of fundamental attitudes about what it means to be human. The children who grow up influenced by your new understanding will develop an even more sophisticated and healthy relationship with memory and forgetting than you have. They'll build upon your insights while forgetting many of your specific concerns, creating space for discoveries you can't even imagine. The infinite present. Armed with this new understanding of memory and forgetting, you possess something that might be the most valuable insight available to human consciousness, the ability to be fully present for experience without the desperate need to preserve every detail. You can now encounter each moment with the confidence that whatever is truly valuable will be naturally preserved through the transformation process, while everything else will fade to make room for new discoveries. This doesn't mean becoming careless about experience or indifferent to memory. It means developing the sophisticated trust that comes from understanding how your mind actually works. Your brain's forgetting mechanisms aren't random or destructive. They're the result of millions of years of evolution, optimizing for exactly what serves your growth and well-being. You can now participate consciously in this process rather than fighting against it. When you encounter something beautiful, you don't need to frantically photograph it or memorize every detail. You can trust that the essence of that beauty, the way it made you feel, the deeper truth it revealed about life, will become part of who you are whether you remember the specific moment or not. When you experience pain or disappointment, you don't need to either cling to it or try to immediately forget it. You can trust that your mind will naturally extract whatever wisdom that experience contains, while allowing the sharp edges of suffering to soften over time. This represents a fundamentally different way of being alive. Instead of trying to control the forgetting and remembering process, you can participate in it consciously. Instead of measuring the value of experience by how well you remember it, you can measure it by how authentically you engage with it in the present moment. The paradox is beautiful. By accepting forgetting, you become more present for remembering. The continuing mystery. Even after our extensive exploration of memory and forgetting, vast mysteries remain. We've discovered that memories transform rather than disappear, that forgetting enables rather than limits human potential, and that consciousness operates through processes far more sophisticated than simple storage and retrieval. But these discoveries have revealed even deeper questions about the nature of human awareness and identity. What is the relationship between the core self that persists through all forgetting and the universal consciousness that mystics and philosophers have described throughout history? How does the individual process of memory transformation contribute to the collective evolution of human understanding? Are there forms of memory and forgetting that operate beyond the individual brain, connecting us to larger patterns of meaning and wisdom? These questions don't represent failures of our current understanding. They represent invitations to continue exploring the deepest mysteries of human existence. Your own experience of memory and forgetting becomes a laboratory for investigating these questions. Every moment of forgetting you experience consciously, every transformation of memory into wisdom that you witness in yourself, contributes to the larger human project of understanding consciousness itself. The mystery isn't something to be solved once and for all, but something to be lived more and more consciously. You now have tools for participating in this mystery with greater awareness and appreciation. You understand that your individual experience of memory and forgetting is connected to the largest questions about what it means to be human, what consciousness is, and how meaning emerges from the interaction between remembering and letting go. The eternal return. We end where we began, but you're not the same person who started this journey. The transformation isn't in what you now remember. It's in how you relate to the entire process of experience, memory, and forgetting. You've developed what we might call forgetting wisdom, the deep understanding that letting go is not loss, but transformation, that forgetting is not failure, but refinement, and that the deepest truths about being human emerge not from what we preserve, but from how we allow experience to change us. This wisdom will continue to deepen throughout your life as you consciously participate in the forgetting and remembering process with greater awareness. You'll notice how your relationship with past experiences evolves over time. You'll observe how present moments naturally transform into wisdom and character rather than just stored information. You'll witness how the people around you benefit from your transformed relationship with memory and identity. Most importantly, you'll discover that understanding forgetting enhances rather than diminishes the preciousness of experience. When you're not desperately trying to preserve every detail, you can engage more fully with what's actually happening. When you're not measuring the value of moments by how well you'll remember them, you can appreciate their intrinsic worth as they unfold. The insights from this exploration will continue to work within you long after the specific details fade. They'll influence how you approach challenges, how you process difficult experiences, how you relate to aging and change, and how you understand the deepest aspects of human nature. This isn't knowledge you need to remember perfectly. It's wisdom you need to let transform you continuously. The next memory. Your next memory is already forming. As you finish processing these ideas and move on to whatever comes next in your day, your brain is preparing to encode new experiences with the enhanced understanding you now possess. Every future memory will be shaped by what you've learned about the nature of memory itself. Every future moment of forgetting will be informed by your new appreciation for forgetting's essential role in human consciousness. This creates a beautiful feedback loop. Understanding memory changes how you create memories, which changes how you experience forgetting, which deepens your understanding of the entire process. You've entered into a conscious relationship with the fundamental mechanisms of human awareness. You're no longer just experiencing memory and forgetting, you're participating consciously in the ongoing creation of human consciousness itself. The next conversation you have, the next beautiful sunset you witness, the next challenge you face, all of these will be experienced and processed through your enhanced understanding of how minds work. Some details will fade, but the essential wisdom will accumulate, continuing to refine your character and deepen your capacity for meaningful engagement with life. Your next memory won't just be another addition to your personal collection of experiences. It will be another step in the ongoing transformation of experience into wisdom, another moment in the eternal dance between remembering and forgetting that defines what it means to be consciously alive. You now understand that this dance isn't happening to you. You are this dance, and recognizing that truth is perhaps the most profound memory of all.